Hey guys, SFP here, and welcome to the fifth episode of my FIFA career mode focusing on DC United. And now, as we get closer to the transfer season, I'm hopefully gonna get more pieces to this team and see if I can improve it. At the moment, everything seems to be fine though, and I just have to switch here. Kyle Porter, who unfortunately got injured during our last game, if you guys remember, and I think I'm going to put Farfan on that position and then put the young and upcomer Colin Martin on my sub spot. And here we go again. Ironically, against the Philadelphia Union, so maybe Farfan will be able to show off against his old team and maybe get an impact here and get a goal or an assist. That would be great. And obviously, the Philadelphia Union Stadium is not the Stadio Classico, but PPL Park. Now, speaking about MLS, as you guys remember during my last week's video or group of videos, the MLS season has started officially, and I managed to watch the LA Chicago game, which I was underwhelmed by Chicago and even LA to some extent because a lot is expected of the champions. And although they did manage to get a 2-0 win, the win wasn't convincing in my eyes. But hey, it's preseason. Anyways, I'm pretty sure I talked a lot about that during the previous video. And I'd figure since I'm not exactly the best at commentating, I'd figure I'd just, give my 2 cents on the other games that happened last week. And speaking of DC United, they actually played against the Montreal Impact. Now, this was an interesting matchup because both teams were, at the time, in the CONCACAF Champions League. Now, DC obviously is out of the tournament. They had a horrible first leg, and while they did manage to win the second leg, it wasn't good enough to get them to the next round. Now, for Montreal, actually, I was quite impressed with both legs as well because in Mexico they actually managed to tie 2-2, and then they managed to get a last-minute goal by rookie Porter, not Kyle Porter from DC United, or I guess ex-DC United, but from another Porter, whose first name I can't remember at the moment. Anyways, and luckily for me, DC United did manage to get that 1-0 win. Although I gotta say, the preseason slump is still kind of in effect there. The teams in general, from all the games this week, haven't been what one would expect. But like I said, it's preseason, so they just gotta get that rust off of them. Anyways, going back on the DC United game, DC did manage to get a 1-0 win, thanks in part to the Costa Rican Arrieta, who has been doing well in our game so far as well. And luckily, I believe he's had 2 goals so far, so he's off to a great start. One in the league play and then one in the CONCACAF Champions League. And so far, he's been a very good acquisition for us, especially since Fabian Espendola is suspended for, I believe, the upcoming 4 games, and Eddie Johnson is injured at the moment. Anyways, and then since this game also clashed against the Philadelphia and Colorado game, I missed the first half, but I managed to get the second half. And the most notable thing in that game is Pablo Mastroeni's mustache. I mean, that thing is still growing, and it's very impressive. I didn't think Pablo would pull it off, but he seems to add an essence to it. At least his mustache seems to add an extra manliness, if you will, and if that were even possible. Uh, but then again, the game itself wasn't too much to see, I guess. And then the Vancouver Toronto match, which I believe for Saturday, that was the game I was really looking forward to, especially with all the acquisitions Toronto FC have had, with the inclusion of Jovinko and Josie Altidore. Oh, excuse me. Now, Carl Robinson's team, I think, played well. I like what Carl Robinson has done. I like his approach to how to manage his team, and they did manage to start off very well. Opening the scoring with their young DP. I believe his name is Octavio. I don't remember. I apologize for that. But Toronto FC managed to get the win at the end, thanks in part to Josie Altidore, who is seeming to get his confidence back. I mean, the first goal was something that we expect a international caliber striker to do, and then the penalty kick was just pure class. Now, as I said in my other channel, which is SFP Soccer, just a shameless plug there. So if you guys actually want to see more about that, just type in SFP Soccer, and you guys should see my other channel, which is my main channel. This is just my gaming channel. But anyways, as I was saying in that video, I'm holding back the praise, I should say, for Toronto FC, because if you guys remember last season, they kind of had a similar start. Actually, I believe they actually won their first two games and started tying and tied their third game. So I kind of want to see a couple more games before I decide whether Toronto FC is a playoff team or not. But given the fact that now six teams from each conference managed to get to the playoffs, then that makes their chances a lot better. Now, going on to the next game, which were actually two games at the same time, which was Houston versus Columbus and FC Dallas versus San Jose. Both ended in a 1-0 victory for Houston and Dallas, respectively. However, I decided to go in for the Houston Columbus game just because I thought it'd be more interesting. And I think out of the two, after seeing a couple of highlights, I think I chose the correct game. Now, the Houston Columbus game, I thought Columbus had it in the bag. And had they actually taken better opportunity, or finished their opportunities, they would have gotten the victory. Now, the integration of Kai Kamara, I think, is very important here because what Columbus Crew have been missing for a couple of seasons, and I want to say maybe 2 or 3 seasons, is a striker. Now, the youngsters, Schoenfield, Finlay, if you count him as a striker, and Bedell, have done fairly well, but they're not exactly someone you would trust with the keys to the car, so to speak. And like I said, they've been doing a really good job, but I don't think you can count on them for a 10 goal season. At least I don't. I honestly don't. And so with Greg Berhalter bringing in Kai Kamara, I thought that was a great move for them, and he did manage to play well. I thought he was very dangerous, and there was that one instance where he had that header shot, and fortunately for him, Tyler Derrick was having the game of his life. He basically single-handedly saved Houston's ass for the most part, and if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have gotten the win. And he had my vote for the best player of this week, but apparently 2 goals clinched it for Josie, and it's something that I kind of dislike, the fact that strikers get a lot more love than goalkeepers in general. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. They have more of an impact by scoring goals, but it's just that Tyler Derrick had a great game, and I thought he deserved those honors. But I digress. Anyways, as for the FC Dallas San Jose game, I didn't obviously see it. I saw the highlights, and I don't think I missed much except for that goal at the end by Blas Perez. And lastly, the Portland Timbers Real Salt Lake game. While it was a 0-0 tie, it had its moments. I wouldn't say it was a very exciting game, but there were moments where Nick Romando's save here and there added excitement to the game. And now for the Sunday matches, the Orlando City and New York City game, which, this is the first game for both expansion teams, and a lot of pundits have said that it was a little bit lackluster. I actually quite liked it, and I think Orlando City had the upper hand. Unfortunately, I guess the newness, if that's even a word, of the team kind of got to them. I guess kind of got to both teams. I thought Orlando City looked better in my eyes, but they're still kind of gelling there, and hopefully by the mid-season they'll actually play the way uh, Heath Heath wants them to play. I believe that's the coach's name. I'm not quite sure. I know he managed the Orlando City team during the crap. I want to say USL. I'm going USL. I don't think it was any NASL, but I want to say USL days. And as for New York City FC, it was a nice goal by Mix. And speaking of goals, FC Dallas just scored here, and this isn't good because this is for the U.S. Open Cup, and if I don't win, I am knocked out, and that would be very embarrassing. That was a nice goal, though. Anyways, for New York City FC, the goal by Mix was good. I felt that they had issues connecting with David Villa, but then again, like I said, they're still going through the preseason motions, and this is a new team. The players need a little bit more time to gel, so hopefully that thing will resolve itself as the season goes on. Now, following that game was the Sporting Kansas City New York Red Bulls game, and one of the things that stood out for me is that Matt Beezer's luck, so to speak, is still pretty bad. I mean, he got the two yellows that led him to a red card, and that was the expulsion. And the guy just doesn't seem to get a break. And speaking of breaks, it looks like I'm not getting any breaks either. As for New York Red Bulls itself, I thought that BWP was kind of in an island there. He didn't seem to have the service, and I mean, when you have a player of Henri's caliber, serving you balls left and right, you're bound to get some in the back of the net. And so I feel this is going to be a transition, and I think BWP is going to have to change his game a little bit because I don't think he's going to get the amount of service that he got last season. So he's going to have to adjust in some way. Either that or Lloyd Sam is going to have to be more of a provider. And lastly, the game that ended the first week was the Seattle Sounders versus the New England Revolution. And this isn't good at the moment because I'm still 1-0, and if I don't at least get a goal here to tie it up, this is going to be over. And yes, it was over. That really sucks. I guess I'm eliminated from the U.S. Open Cup, and here's the part where I say I don't care about the U.S. Open Cup. That my main focus is the MLS Cup and all that jazz that the coaches typically say. And I honestly think it's BS because for some reason people don't care. I guess it's I don't want to say it's a meaningless trophy, but I also don't want to undermine it because it's a trophy nonetheless. And even though the coaches swear they don't care about the trophy, they really do, especially when they get towards the end of the competition. Anyways, if I'm not mistaken, this is the third game with the Montreal Impact. So far, I have a tie, I believe, and a loss in the U.S. Open Cup. And look at that. Second place. I'm 4 points behind New York. That's not good. Gotta fix that. Anyways, speaking about games, the last game was the Seattle Sounders versus the New England Revolution. And this was also an interesting game because most people peg these two to win their conferences. Now, New England Revolution obviously went to the final last season and have only gotten better in most people's opinions, and I can see why. I don't think they've lost many important pieces. Maybe AJ Soares, but I, I'm thinking that Jay Heaps is going to switch Farrell from a right back to a center back, so that in itself should be suffice. Although I'm not, if that happens, I'm not sure who will occupy that right back spot at the moment. And then they have the loss of Patrick Mullins, but when you get a player of Juan Agudalo's caliber, I think they'll be fine. And to be honest, Juan Agudelo, when he gets back in form, I should say, should have a bigger impact than Patrick Mullins did last season. So, anyways, and then Seattle, as always, they won the U.S. Open Cup and they were going for the trouble after they won the Supporters Shield. However, the LA Galaxy crushed their dreams, and they seem to have their core team still there, and especially that dynamic duo between Clinton Dempsey and Obafemi Martins is still there. And they showed up. Both of those players showed up, and they had a nice understanding of each other. Their chemistry, I can't explain it. It's awesome. And a 3-0 victory is something that I don't think reflects the game. I want to say it doesn't reflect the game because I know New England is a better team than this, but maybe the loss of Jermaine Jones to an injury and the absence of Lee Nguyen had something to do with it. So I'm not taking too much from this game in general, except for the fact I guess that Seattle seems to be picking up where they left off. And since I'm doing this video on a Friday, I also did manage to get the second game here of the MLS season, or I guess this is the beginning of the second week, which was the Houston Dynamo versus the Orlando City, and that came again. You still see the rust, and it's gonna take a while, maybe a couple of weeks. Like say by week 5, week 6, we should be seeing a big difference. And speaking about difference, here's Chris Rolfe with the PK, which would be a very good way to start the game with a goal. Oh, that was too close. Too close for my taste. I should really practice on my PKs, guys. Anyways, back to the Houston Orlando game. Now that game, like I said, it was lackluster, and like I said before, it's gonna be like this for a while. It's gonna be like this for a while, and there were some very interesting moments. And Tyler Derrick, I swear I was gonna say he had another great game if it wasn't for that own goal. Now many people have said he's not good on his feet, and I didn't see it until this exact game. So hopefully that doesn't shake up his confidence too much, and we'll see what Coyle does, or yeah, Coyle does, and I don't think. Well, he doesn't have the starting spot secure. I don't think Coyle will substitute him out. I'm not sure who his backup keeper at the moment. Oh wait, never mind. It's Willis, ex United player. That could happen actually, because I rate Willis higher than I do Derek. At least in the beginning of the season. After seeing him in these last 2 games, I can see why he deserves a starting spot. Although I think it would be a shame if Willis doesn't get a look at least once. And I think at the beginning of the season would be the best time to do it. Anyways, that's it for this, I guess, week's roundup of games. And now I'm going to solely focus on this video. Come on, Doyle. Oh, that post. And again with the second attempt. And the crowd goes wild. Look at those fans. The Barra Brava. I think I see them over there. Studs up, ref. Anyways, oh, and then that's a goal from the Montreal Impact to cut the lead in half. And who was that? Justin Mapp. Oh, that's a little ironic considering Justin Mapp got injured during the DC game. I feel bad for the guy. The guy's been such a great player, especially I remember him in his Chicago days. And in Montreal Impact, I think he's been the most influential. Well, besides, I guess, Marco DeVio has been the most influential player on their team. But now with the integration of Piatti, who I actually think he is a world-class player. He's obviously not playing in the national team because I believe he's Argentinian, and Argentina's doing pretty well, if you want my opinion. And Doyle with the second goal. What a beauty. It's as simple as that. Just center, header, goal. There's nothing the goalkeeper could have done about that. And Dykstra seems pretty happy there. Connor Doyle. 3-1 win so far. That's pretty good. I think this is the best result I've had during this season. And will they make it 2? No. Nice block by Dykstra there. And if only he could actually save those types of shots in real life, then we probably wouldn't have lost against Alajuelense. And a nice shot there by I want to say Estrada, and a red card, straight red, and it doesn't even matter though because it's like at the 90th minute to Bakary Sumare, who I think has seen his best days behind, has his best days behind him. He was a beast during the Chicago Fire days. And then I don't remember what club he went to when he came back to the MLS, but now with the Montreal Impact, I'm hoping this will rejuvenate his career. And actually, I think he went back. If I'm not mistaken, he went back to Chicago, and I guess he didn't like it. I guess he didn't like the things that Frank Yallop was doing, and Frank Yallop seems to be a polarizing coach at the moment. And as promised, I accidentally went to the scoreboard. I apologize, guys. And I believe this is the end of the video. So thank you guys for watching. Just kidding.
Hi everybody, welcome to today's game.
New England Revolution. Now this isn't Gillette Stadium. Anyways, here we are shaking hands, and I believe I have my A team if I'm not mistaken. Sometimes I wish, we'd actually be able to see the coaches here. That'd be very interesting seeing Jay Heaps there on the sideline. And there's Jermaine Jones and Tristan Bowen, who I believe was the first homegrown signing. And many people have debated of the reasoning behind that signing. Many people have speculated that Galaxy just kind of wanted some publicity, and they decided to sign Bowen. Now, I actually thought Bowen was actually going to be a very good star. He had a very good beginning of the season in his rookie year, and then he kind of just faded away. Now we hear the likes of well, at least we heard the likes of Villarreal for Galaxy as well, and then he kind of died off, and now it's Jesse Zarda's time. Although he seems to, out of the three I've mentioned, he seems to be penning out the best at the moment. Although now, with the integration of Bradford Jameson the fourth, who knows, what's going to happen there. And that was a close shot by DC United there, but it was offsides. And there's a replay, and the whole homegrown player signing, that I could talk about that for hours. It's just certain teams have, nice save. Certain teams have applied it very well, and not to show any favoritism here, I guess, but DC United I think has done a very good job at integrating their a homegrown policy and academy as well. Out of all the players they've signed, I think the only player that has been a dud, so to speak, was Connor Shanowski, who unfortunately left the team, or he was let go, I should say, because I guess he didn't pan out. Neither in the holding midfielder position that was originally the position he played, and then he transferred to center back. And center back, he was actually pretty good and better than his holding midfield position. And what a nice goal there by Davy Arno. I mean, Bill Hamid is a U.S. international quality goalkeeper. At least in the future, he will be. He still has a little ways to go, but I think he will be a quality player and possibly the starting national team goalkeeper in the future. And then of course Andy Nahar, who went to the World Cup for Honduras. And then we also have, to a lesser extent, I thought I rated Ethan White highly, and I hope he can actually conserve and keep that starting position for the Philadelphia Union. And then we have young and coming players like Michael Seaton, who has had a better national team career than a professional team career, as I mentioned in a previous video before. And here is the New England Revolution with a tie. Thanks in part two. I want to say Teal Bunbury, but I'm not quite sure. Is it Teal? Yeah, it's Teal. And speaking about national team careers, someone's career who seems to be in the slump right now, at least national team wise, is Teal Bunbury. Now, Teal actually had a good couple of seasons at the beginning, and they were so good that he actually got called into the national team. And by national team, I mean the U.S. national team. Now, for those of you who don't know, Teal Bunbury is Canadian, and I forget how exactly he qualified for the U.S. national team. I used to know, but I'm drawing a blank here. But anyways, these dual national teams are kind of sensitive subjects here because someone always ends up on the losing side. Now, World Cup wise, I think Teal Bunbury, I guess, made the more logical choice. I don't want to say it's the right choice, but made the more logical choice because the U.S. does in fact have a better chance of making the World Cup more often than Canada does. That being said, I would like to think that had he chose Canada, that he would basically have a guaranteed starting spot on the national team. But I can't really confirm that because I don't know much about the Canadian national team. So for the people watching there who do follow the Canadian national team and like the Canadian team in general, if you guys think Teal Bunbury would be the automatic starter for Canada, please let me know. Maybe I'm crediting him too much and I'm not crediting Canada enough in their depth of the roster, but who knows? I mean, just, I guess, enlighten me, so to speak. But, anyways, I'm pretty sure that he would have been a starter for Canada in the Gold Cup and all these other international tournaments. Now, Canada in general seems to be going through a shift, especially with Benito Floro. They need to make a couple changes, like not calling in players who are unattached. That's just a big no-no. And start to blood in the younger generation because you can't keep calling in Dwayne De Rosario. Anyways, that's it for this episode, guys. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next episode coming up very soon.